It can shake you all day when one small mistake makes your heart whisper, "What if this is the beginning?" Sometimes it is not a big mistake at all. It is one missing word, one blank moment, one sudden wave of fear. You may be talking about something simple, then stop in the middle of the sentence, searching for a word you know. You may walk into the kitchen, stand still, and wonder why you came in there in the first place. You may open a drawer, stare at what is inside, and feel your chest tighten before the answer returns. You may forget a name you have known for years, not forever, just long enough to scare you deeply. You may miss a date on the calendar, then replay it in your mind for the rest of the day. You may check the stove twice, then check it again, not because you were careless, because now you worry. You may wake up tired and foggy, and every little slip feels bigger before breakfast is even over. You may notice yourself slowing down in a conversation, trying to hide the pause before someone else notices it too. That part can hurt more than the mistake itself. The quiet fear that someone you love may be watching closely. You may smile and move on, but inside you are asking a harder question you do not want to say aloud. Is this normal aging, or is something changing that I should not ignore? That question can sit with you while you fold towels, drive to the store, or lie awake at night. It can follow you into very ordinary moments, quiet moments, the kind nobody else would ever understand from the outside. You stand in front of the pill organizer and pause longer than usual, trying to remember if today's dose is done. You look at your phone to check an appointment, then forget why you picked up the phone at all. You reach the grocery aisle and suddenly cannot remember the one thing you came for. You hear a familiar neighbor say hello, and for one awful second, their name disappears. You search for your glasses while they are sitting on the table beside you, and your stomach drops anyway. If any of that feels painfully familiar, stay here with me for a moment. Take one slow breath. You do not need to prove anything right now. You do not need to test yourself while you listen. Just notice which kind of memory slip scares you the most, the lost word, the missed step, the blank pause. Sometimes fear grows larger than the moment that caused it. That is part of what makes this so hard. A small slip can feel huge when your mind rushes straight to the worst possible meaning. And when that happens more than once, you may start watching yourself all day long. You may quietly test your memory in the middle of normal life. Did I lock the door? Did I say that already? You may scan your own thoughts like a guard on duty waiting for the next mistake. That kind of pressure can make memory feel worse, not better. A tense mind does not work calmly. Or sleep can do it too. One rough night can leave you foggy, slow, and easily upset. Stress can do it. Grief can do it. Pain can do it. Big changes in routine can do it. So can loneliness. So can worry. So can carrying too much in your mind for too long. Sometimes even simple tasks feel harder when your mind has not had enough rest or peace. That does not mean you should dismiss everything, but it does mean fear is not always telling the truth. Some changes in memory and thinking can happen with age, a slower recall, a word that comes later, a detail that takes longer to find, a name that shows up 10 minutes after you needed it. That can be frustrating, it can be embarrassing, but it does not automatically mean something severe is happening. Still, there are times when memory changes deserve more attention, and it helps to know what those times are. Not to frighten you, to steady you, because fear feels worse when everything is vague and unnamed. One sign to notice is when memory trouble starts happening more often, not just once in a while. Everyone can have an off moment. What matters is when the off moments begin to form a pattern. If you keep losing track of the same kinds of things week after week, pay attention to that. If you notice more blank spots than usual over time, that is worth calmly taking seriously. Another sign is when memory slips start getting in the way of daily life. Not just feeling annoying, not just feeling embarrassing, actually making ordinary tasks harder to manage. Maybe bills become confusing when they were once simple. Maybe medications become harder to track without more mistakes. Maybe meals, appointments, or basic steps in a familiar routine begin slipping more than before. A third sign is when the problem is not just forgetting, but confusion. Forgetting where you placed your keys is one thing. Forgetting what keys are for is something very different. Taking longer to remember a word can happen. Not understanding a familiar conversation is a different kind of concern. Missing a turn while driving can happen to anyone. Feeling lost on a route you know well matters more. A fourth sign is when the people close to you begin noticing meaningful changes too. That can be hard to hear. It may even make you defensive or ashamed for a moment. But loving eyes sometimes notice a change before you fully trust your own experience. If someone close to you gently says, "You do not seem like yourself lately," pause and listen. Not because they know everything, but because outside perspective can be useful when fear and pride are both present. A fifth sign is when the change keeps growing instead of easing after rest, support, or a calmer week. A bad stretch can come from exhaustion or stress, but some things do not lift when the strain lifts. If the fog, confusion, or forgetfulness keeps moving forward, that deserves attention, not silent worry. And there is one more thing that matters. Your own inner feeling counts too. If something feels truly different inside your day-to-day life, do not talk yourself out of noticing it. You know your own mind better than anyone else, even if you cannot explain it perfectly. Now, maybe you are wondering which category your own fear belongs in. That is such a human question. Maybe your slicks come after poor sleep. Maybe they come when you feel rushed. Maybe they come when you feel alone. Maybe the fear is loudest in the morning, or after a social visit, or when someone asks you something quickly. Take a quiet second and ask yourself when this fear tends to show up most. Is it worse when you are tired, worse when you are stressed, worse when you feel put on the spot? That small question matters because patterns can tell a kinder truth than panic can. One helpful step is to name the fear plainly instead of letting it drift around in the dark. You might quietly say to yourself, "I am scared because this feels different and I do not know why." There is something calming about honest words. They stop the fear from becoming a shadow with no shape. Another helpful step is to track patterns instead of judging one moment. Write down when slips happen, morning or evening, good sleep or poor sleep, busy day or quiet day. Notice whether the problem is mostly words, appointments, focus, or feeling mentally foggy. This is not about watching yourself harshly. It is about replacing panic with clear information. A third gentle step is to protect sleep as much as you can. A tired brain can feel far more broken than it truly is. If your nights have been restless, if pain wakes you, if worry keeps you alert, that matters. Sometimes what feels like memory loss is a mind asking for rest and calm more than anything else. Another steady step is to lower pressure in small ways. Give yourself a pause before answering. Slow the pace of tasks. Do one thing at a time. Too much rushing can make a normal recall delay feel like a disaster. It also helps to build simple supports without shame. Write things down. Use one notebook. Keep keys in one place. Set reminders. Label what helps you. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Strong people use tools. They do not punish themselves for needing support. Staying mentally engaged can help too, but gently, not like a test. Read something you enjoy. Talk with someone you trust. Work a puzzle if it brings you pleasure. Use your mind in ways that feel alive, not in ways that make you feel judged. And if changes feel unusual, stronger, or more frequent, bring them to a doctor calmly. You do not need to wait until fear becomes unbearable. You do not need to arrive with perfect words. You can simply say, "Something feels different and I want to talk about it." That is a strong sentence, a clear sentence, a respectful sentence to yourself. Please hear this part with care. One memory slip does not define your future. One lost word is not a verdict. One foggy morning is not the whole story of your mind. Even several difficult days do not mean you are foolish, weak, or falling apart. Fear can make you feel broken long before the facts say that you are. And that is why compassion matters here. Not denial, not drama. Compassion. You deserve to respond to yourself with the same kindness you would give someone you love. If a dear friend forgot why they walked into the room, you would not shame them for it. You would say, "It happens. Sit down, breathe. Let us figure it out one step at a time." You deserve that same tone inside your own mind. You are not silly for worrying. You are not overreacting because this scares you. Memory is personal. It touches independence, dignity, confidence, and the way you recognize yourself. Of course it matters to you. Of course a small change can feel very big. But you are still here, still thinking, still noticing, still caring enough to pay attention. That matters more than fear tells you. It means you are engaged with your life, not lost from it. And whatever this turns out to be, you do not have to face it by hiding. You can observe, you can write things down, you can ask questions, you can get support. You can stop carrying every scared thought alone in the middle of the night. Sometimes the hardest part is not the memory slip, it is the lonely story you tell yourself afterward. The story that says this proves everything, the story that says you should already know. The story that says do not tell anyone, because then it becomes real. But silence does not protect you, it only gives fear more room to grow. Gentle truth is better. Gentle truth gives you something solid to stand on. So if you have been quietly testing yourself all day, you can stop for now. If you have been replaying one mistake again and again, you can loosen your grip a little. If you have been bracing every time a word takes too long, you can breathe through that moment. You are allowed to be careful without being cruel to yourself. You are allowed to pay attention without assuming the worst. You are allowed to seek help without making it mean something final. That is the steadier path. Not ignoring, not panicking, just seeing clearly and responding with care. So remember the signs that matter most. When changes happen more often, when daily life gets harder, when confusion replaces simple forgetting, when others notice meaningful changes, and when the problem keeps growing instead of easing. Those are worth attention, not terror, attention. And if what you are dealing with is more about stress, sleep, worry, or overload, that matters too. That still deserves kindness. That still deserves support. That still affects how your mind feels every day. You do not need to earn reassurance by suffering more first. You do not need to wait until everything becomes worse before you take yourself seriously. Start where you are, with honesty, with notes, with rest, with one conversation if needed. Let that be enough for today. If this gave words to something you have been carrying quietly, I am glad you stayed with me. If you want, you can leave a simple comment like, "This fear has been on my mind." And if you would like more calm, clear videos like this, you can subscribe and come back anytime.